Und was wollen wir essen auf der Sudanju? Dem Schorhabor mit Lyosen, dem Schorhabor mit Lyosen, dem Schorhabor mit Lyosen wollen wir essen. Auf der Sudanju. Und wer wird uns trinken auf der Sudanju? Dem Jain am Yeshua. Dem Jain am Yeshua. Dem Jain am Yeshua werden wir trinken, dem Schorabor mit Leviosen werden wir essen. Auf der Sudanju. Und wer wird uns teure sagen auf der Sudanju? Rabbeinu wird uns teure sorgen, dem Jain am Schulmer werden wir trinken, dem Schorabor mit Leviosen werden wir essen. Auf der Sudanju. Und wer nun wird uns spielen auf der Sudanju? Rabbeinu wird uns teure sorgen, dem Jain am Yeshua werden wir trinken, dem Schorabor mit Leviosen werden wir essen. Auf der Sudanju. Und wer wird uns Chochmisse sagen, auf der Sudanju? Rabbeinu wird uns teure sorgen, dem Jain am Yeshua werden wir trinken, dem Schorabor mit Leviosen werden wir essen. Auf der Sudanju. Und wer wird uns tanzen auf der Sudanju? Schleime, Melech wird uns Chochmes sorgen, Moshe, Melech wird uns spielen, Moshe, Rabbeinu wird uns teure sorgen, dem Jain am Yeshua werden wir trinken, dem Schorabor mit das Bäumele, das Milchel, weil ich es verlassen was ist geworden von mein Städtele? Was ist geworden von mein alter Herr? Yisrael light stay.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We are beginning this evening welcoming our angels on page 42.
Shalom Aleichem Malachim feine. Shalom Aleichem Malachim meine. Shalom Aleichem Elter und Kind. Shabbos Kodesh is at sin. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Shalom Aleichem Elter und Kind. Shabbos Kodesh is at sin. Shalom Aleichem gute Freund. Shabbos Kodesh is doch ein. Shalom Aleichem alle Menschen. Shalom Aleichem lieber Shabbos. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos, good Shabbos. Shalom Aleichem alle Menschen. Shalom Aleichem lieber
Shabbat Shalom. It is so lovely to be here with those of you who are here in person, those of you who are here in spirit, those of you who are here in all the ways that we are around. I like to think that we're around like the table where dessert is about to be served together. One of the things I have missed most over the last few years is the ability to feed people regularly. So I hope that Shabbos today somehow feels a little bit like an extra dessert from whatever sort of meal, whatever sort of gathering, whatever sort of connection you had last night, that this is the dessert. This is like the sweetness of gathering together and offering each other blessing and gratitude, whatever your other traditions are. So this is also, in addition to being the Shabbat after Thanksgiving, this is also the Shabbat that immediately precedes December 1st, which is World AIDS Day. And I will say at CBST, we sometimes will do the Shabbat that is after World AIDS Day so that it is not on Thanksgiving weekend when we know that people are maybe still a little tired, that people are maybe still not quite ready for another Shabbat service again, staying at home, digesting turkey. But this year, especially because next week will be the Shabbat of Hanukkah, it's a lot, right? And even though Rabbi Kleinbaum always says the theme of Shabbat is Shabbat, we want to make sure that holidays get their own space and their own kavod, their own honor. So on this World AIDS Day Shabbat, I do not know of many other Jewish communities that do a World AIDS Day Shabbat and call it that. One thing I want to note that I really feel very moved by is the ability to be back in our sanctuary. At the back of our sanctuary is our memorial wall that says, Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing. And in addition to the individual names of CBST members written on this wall, there's also something very unique. Now, most synagogues on their memorial walls will have a special section that says, in memoriam for these 6 million and more Jews who were lost in the Holocaust, some of whose names we do not know. Some synagogues have special memorial sections for other specific communal tragedies to them. And the special section that we have is the one that says, in memoriam of those lost to HIV and AIDS, including those whose names we did not know, including those who were CBST regulars, who were part of this community at a time when people came here anonymously if they needed to keep themselves safe. We really don't know the names of everybody who we lost in this community, but we remember them. We light a candle for all of them. And what the text that we put on that part of our memorial wall is from Isaiah, and it says, "I will give them in my house and within my walls a monument and a name even greater than children. I will give them an everlasting name which will not perish." That phrase in Hebrew, a monument and a name, is where they get the name of the Holocaust Museum in Israel, Yad Vashem, a monument and a name. Yad is also hand, of course, but in this case, many of these people, most of these people, did not have children to mourn them, certainly not to say Kaddish for them. And so we keep their memories both here, also downstairs on our beautiful AIDS quilt, during the AIDS walk when we wear ribbons with people's names on them, to make sure that the people who were part of the founding of this community, whose artistic abilities, whose knowledge, whose learning, whose love of Jewishness made this community what it is, that their names are carried forward in our work, are held on our walls, that the beauty of their souls, even if we don't know their names, continues to be honored in this community. And I want to read at the bottom of page 200. This is an older text. It's a historical text now, but it's important. More than 1/4 of the male membership of CBST has died of AIDS. World AIDS Day is not an abstract, amorphous, anonymous day of commemoration for our community. We don't have to set aside one day a year to acknowledge AIDS and what it has done to us. For many of us, AIDS touches every day and every event. Many of us can't look at ourselves in the mirror without seeing AIDS. We have lost lovers. We are bereft. We have lost friends. Many of us are sick. Many of us are facing death. Many of us are touched by the loss. And one thing I want to say about part of what the connection today, we have seen communities over the last year and a half try to figure out how to get through a pandemic that was badly managed by our government. And this community knew exactly how to take care of each other, how to reach out to each other, how to build community in the ways that were possible to us, and how to keep each other safe while doing so. And I know I am not the only one in this community who is so deeply proud and so deeply grateful that even from this tragedy of what we experienced during the height of the AIDS crisis, that in this ongoing piece of the tragedy, that this community understands what it means to stand up for each other, to love each other, to build together, to look out for each other. So I am profoundly grateful to be a member of this community, and I feel deeply the responsibility of these names and these memories being part of who we are. So today on World AIDS Day Shabbat, I would like to invite up Shep Wanan, our CBST member, to light our Shabbat candles and welcome in this day of rest, which, as it is Shabbat, is also a day of joy. It is also a day of celebration. It is always a day of gratitude. And we hold it all together. Oh, no.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu וציוונו להדליק נר של Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you. And we continue. We ask you to rise if you are able as we welcome in the angels of this day, the angels of rest and of joy and of memory. On page 40.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
You may be seated. We turn to page 52 as we move into the Psalms that welcome Shabbat.
Lechu niranena l'Adonai, nari'a letzor ishenu, nekadma fanav b'todah, b'zmirot nari'a lo. Nekadma fanav b'todah, b'zmirot nari'a lo. Ki el gadol Adonai, umelech gadol al kol Elohim, asher biyado mechkerei aretz, v'to'afot harim lo. Asher biyado mechkerei aretz, v'to'afot harim lo. Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru miyom liyom yeshuato. Ay, 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 sapru v'goyim kivodo, v'chol ha'amim niflotav, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. ינאי נאי 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 ינאי נאי 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 ינאי נאי nay, 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 ay, nay, nay. Nay, 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 nay.
Please rise. We continue with Psalm 29 on page 62.
מזמור לדוד, הבו לאדוני בני-אלים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש. קול אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד הרים. אדוני על מים רבים. אדוני על מים רבים. קול אדוני בכוח, קול אדוני בהדר. קול אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון. וירקידם כמו עגל לבנון וסיריון, כמו בן רימים, כמו בן רימים. קול אדוני חוצב להבות אש, קול אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש. קול אדוני חולל איילות, ויחשוף יערות, ובהיכלו כולו אומר כבוד, כולו אומר כבוד, כולו אומר כבוד. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו ושלום.
You may be seated. We turn to page 66, and I think I say this every time I lead services, but that's not that often, so I think I can say it whenever I want, which is kind of delightful. That's a nice little side effect. Is that one of my favorite features of Shabbat is this tradition that we have an extra soul, we have an extra neshama, and a neshama yetera, that comes and dwells with us only for the 25 hours of Shabbat. It's like we each get our own personal Shabbat queen, like of any gender, it doesn't matter. Your Shabbat queen can be anyone you imagine. And we each get this extra soul, this neshama yetera, that comes and dwells with us. Now, I will be honest, I think many of you will feel the same, especially over the last year and a half, especially over the last 5 years. It feels like one soul isn't quite enough some weeks, right? That one soul that we have most of the time, it goes through a lot each week. And so there's something so wonderful about knowing that here's this tradition that we can hold on to, whether or not you really believe it, to sort of breathe in and say, okay, you know what, I'm ready for my soul to just sort of take the nap that she needs to take. Or maybe it's that there's another whole soul coming and joining you, and like that soul, that's the one that is going to expand inside you and say, you know what, all those feelings it's been really hard to deal with during the week, I'm the one who's going to hold on to those. I can hang out and take those with you. And let's light some candles. Let's do something joyful. Let's sing. Let's sing Lecha Dodi and recognize that there has been destruction and that it's too much of sitting around in the valley of tears, and it's time to get up a little bit. It's time to celebrate. Every week we hold these things together. So I hope you each feel a little bit of some sort of neshama yetera, whether it's an extra bit of your own soul or whether it's a whole extra soul. I hope you feel in this Lecha Dodi, as we are welcoming in the Shabbat bride, that whatever that extra soul is coming into you is getting the warmest possible welcome it can get. Page 66.
Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה קומי צאי מתוך ההפכה. רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה והוא יחמול עלייך חמלה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה. התנערי מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי. על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי קורבה אל נפשי גאלה. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה פני שבת נקווה לה. התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, 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 לא תבושי ולא תקל ממה תשתוכחי, ומתיהם מבך יחסו, אני עמי ונבנתה עיר עתילה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, והיו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהיך כמשוש לב ואהבה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי על ידיש, בין פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום, עטרת שכינה גם בשמחה, ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה,
And as you sit down, let your Neshama Yetera sit down and settle in next to you. We turn to page 72, and we are singing this time at that first little star, about a third of the way down the page in the Hebrew, or in the halfway down in the English, and the transliteration. And I love I love this piece very much. The translation on page 73, if you find that same little star, the text is, "How marvelous are your deeds, Almighty. Your thoughts are so very deep." I once had a Hebrew school kid who wanted to know, what does that mean? What are God's thoughts? I said, wow, that's actually a great question. I have no idea what God's thoughts are. I like to think that if there is a divine being that I believe in, its thoughts have to be more profound than mine or any of ours. But the idea that here we are singing this, how deep are your thoughts? It's very, where all the other psalms about like, well, there was destruction and we got up from it. There's something very concrete about that impulse. The hills are singing and the rams are leaping and the rain is falling. There's very concrete things. And then we're imagining that there is a divine being who is just more profound than any of us can understand. And the music that we're going to use for this is our composer feature this week, it's a wonderful chant by Shefa Gold, who was born in 1955. I love when we use living composers. This is something I feel like is also quite unique about CBST. And we actually get to do this chant together. So you can pick up what Sam is doing and try to sing along with him, or you can pick up the much easier part that I am doing and try to sing along with me. And I feel like there is a depth to it, that when you chant, right, you kind of lose yourself in the words, you kind of lose yourself in the music, trying to imagine what on earth would the depth be of the divine. It's a little bit trippy, and it's also very cool. So pick your part or let the music wash over you as we chant, "How marvelous are your deeds, your thoughts are very deep."
Magalu masechaya me'odam ku machshevotecha. Magalu masechaya me'odam ku machshevotecha. Magalu masechaya me'odam ku machshevotecha. Magalu masechaya me'odam ku machshevotecha.
That was pretty deep. Thank you. Please read with me on the bottom of page 75, a poem by Aaron Zeitlin. "Praise me," says God, "and I will know that you love me. Condemn me," says God, "and I will know that you love me. Praise or condemn me, and I will know that you love me. Sing out my graces," says God. "Raise your fist against me and be angry," says God. Sing out graces or express anger. Anger is also a kind of praise, says God. But if you sit fenced off in your apathy, says God. If you sit entrenched in "I don't give a damn," says God. If you look at the stars and yawn, if you see suffering and don't cry out, if you don't praise and you don't condemn, then I created you in vain, says God. We rise if we are able and continue with the Baruch Hu on page 78.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam vaed.
Baruch ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
You may be seated.
מעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו.
המעריב ערבים.
Amen. Ahavat Olam is on page 86.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו וקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Please continue individually with the text on the following pages.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Page 94. I love that there is a tiny bit, because of this, a tiny bit of Passover in every Shabbat. I like to imagine every Shabbat we have this little moment of crossing the sea that is just embedded in every single service, so that it's not just one holiday, right? There's always this moment of, let's remember this moment of liberation. Let's remember a moment of feeling that we've been freed from something. Let's remember a moment of communally coming through something hard and being on the verge of something wonderful. Page 94, Mi Chamocha.
Yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai 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 Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot osef ele Nora tehilot osef ele מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים זה אלינו ואמרו זה אלינו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל
Page 98. Hashkivenu, help us lie down, Adonai, our God, in peace, and let us rise again to life. Spread over us the shelter of your peace.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim Ushmor tzeitzenu לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל כל העמים ועל ירושלים.
We rise if we are able and turn to page 102 for Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
Please read with me on page 103, the poem by Leah Goldberg. Teach me, my God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days. Lest my days be as the one before, lest routine set my ways. Following the Chatzi Kaddish, we will recite the Amidah individually and silently. The traditional text begins immediately following the Hafkadash, which is on the next page, starting in 104. And there are alternative poetic readings starting on page 124. And of course, there are always the words in your heart or any of the other really beautiful writings anywhere in this beautiful Siddur. So page 104, Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. בעלמא דברה קידושי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביומי חון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב וימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמד קודשה. בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא וימרו, אמן. gracia, nos mande mucha ganancia, non veamos mal ni ansia, a nos y a todo Israel. Bendito el abastado que hemos Dios día honrado, cada Shabbat mejorado, a nos y a todo Israel, a nos y a todo Israel. Ose shalom bimroma, uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel, ve'imru amen. Ose shalom bimroma, uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel, ve'imru amen. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Israel. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol yoshvei tevel.
I do love that we can have both Yiddish and Ladino in one service. And I look forward to a day when we can have a little more of all those other wonderful Jewish languages that I don't speak. But hopefully, the richness of this community, I trust, I believe that one day there will be some Judeo-Arabic, there'll be some Judeo-Italian, all the other, it's just, it makes me very happy. So as we do in every service, we pause for a moment to pray for healing. Page 130. Misheberach avotenu v'imotenu, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, v'Leah, Bilcha, v'Zilpa, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, Yivarech v'yirapeh et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Bilcha, and Zilpa, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, bless us too. Bless and heal all those who are ill. This week we are specifically praying for Charles Raymond Jacobs, Ken Binder, Ron Cohen, Pearl Fisk, Diane Getty, Sidney Goldfisher, Stacy Harris, Maya Orly Bat Esther, Mimi Jefferson, Terasita Feng, Mark Polakov, Elise Cookie Sofer, Yehudit Bat Yirmiyahu Udvora, and Dov Bear. And please feel free to say aloud or write in the chat the names of anyone who you are holding in your heart for healing this Shabbat. And we include in our healing prayers all those currently afflicted with COVID-19 in our CBST community and around the world. Remember those of us whose bodies need comfort and strength, healing and renewal. Remember, too, those of us who are faint of heart, whose pain and anguish are emotional or psychological, pain of the soul rather than the body. Give strength to those of us who are fighting the many dependencies and addictions of the modern world, and give us the strength to proceed in our recoveries. Help all of us as we are affected by HIV/AIDS, cancers, and other diseases, those of us who are ill, those of us who are not but may yet be, and those who are affected by the suffering of others. Bring healing to our families and friends and all we know. God, heal us of all our illnesses, physical, emotional, and spiritual, and let us find shalom. May all who are ill be surrounded by the love of friends, loving companions, families, and community. And let us all say, Amen. Prayer for our country. It's still very exciting to me that our new edition of the prayer book has the prayer for the country in it. There are not many of these out here yet, but I've got one of them here. So I want to acknowledge that the chair of our Chazak group, Mark Fisher, was supposed to read for us tonight, but he is home with a cold, so we will belatedly add him to our Refuah Shlema list. And I am very honored to invite up our immediate Chazak chair emerita, Lynn Rosenbluth, to read the prayer for our country for us. And Lynn, I'm going to switch out microphones for you. You can choose which half you would like.
Our God and God of our ancestors, bless this country and all who dwell within it. Help us to experience the blessings of our lives and circumstances, to be vigilant, compassionate, and brave. Strengthen us when we are afraid. Help us to channel our anger so that it motivates us to action. Help us to feel our fear so that we do not become numb. Help us to be generous with others so that we raise each other up. Help us to be humble in our fear, knowing that as vulnerable as we feel, there are those at greater risk, and that it is our holy work to stand with them. Help us to taste the sweetness of liberty, to not take for granted the freedoms won in generations past or recent days, to heal and nourish our democracy, that it may be like a tree planted by the water, whose roots reach down to the stream. It need not fear drought when it comes. Its leaves are always green.
And let us say, Amen. Thank you so much, Lynn. This coming week, we will be welcoming in a new Hebrew month. Please rise if you're able and turn to page 136 as we welcome in the month that we're not going to name just yet. It's funny how we get superstitious about that. It's almost like a baby naming, right? We're not going to say it yet. We're going to wait till we bless it, and then we can say it. Please read with me at the top of page 137. May it be your will, Eternal One, our God, God of our ancestors, that you renew for us this month for goodness and for blessing. May you give to us a long life, a life of peace, a life of goodness, a life of blessing, a life of nourishment and sustenance. May it be a life of bodily health, a life in which is found awe for the divine, a life free of disgrace and shame, a life of happiness and honor, a life of integrity and discernment, intelligence and knowledge, a life in which our heart's petitions are fulfilled for goodness. Amen. May the one who wrought miracles for our ancestors and redeemed them from servitude to freedom continue to redeem us and speedily unite our dispersed kin from the four corners of the earth. Let all Israel be committed to one another. Amen.
ראש חודש טבת יהיה ביום שבת קודש ולמחרתו ביום ראשון הבאים עלינו ועל כל ישראל לטובה.
The beginning of the month of Tevet will be on Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. It's like a really extra month. And may it come upon us for goodness. Please read with me where it says congregation. Ba'alat Tefillah repeats, let the Holy Blessed One, Blessed Holy One, renew this month for us and for all who dwell on earth, for life and for peace,
Amen.
For joy and for happiness,
Amen.
For salvation and for rest.
Amen.
And let us say,
Amen.
Amen. You may be seated, and we continue with Kaddish Shalem on page 138.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ועלמא דברה קירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ויומייכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואימרו אמן. תקבל צלות הון ובוד הון דכל ישראל כל דם אבו הון די ושמיה ואימרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואימרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו amen.
So on this World AIDS Day Shabbat, our guest speaker this evening is somebody who most of you know possibly quite well, our CBS team member, Shep Wanan. And I want to say what an honor it has been to work with Shep on this talk, because I know bits and pieces of Shep's story from years and years of onegs after Shabbat, of running into each other at protests, of chatting in the hallway. But this was the first time that I really saw the full arc. And I also want to acknowledge that it is not easy to get up in front of your community and tell really hard parts of your story. And I am very honored that Shep went through with preparing this, because I know how hard it was. And I invite you to come up. Yes, I'm going to switch out microphones for you too. And we are honored to have you to this evening.
Okay.
Talk right into the mic, and you can
Okay.
put this up here so that
Oh, okay.
it's a little easier to see.
Stand up. Is this working? Yeah? Oh, okay. Okay, what?
Oh, I switched it off by mistake. I'm sorry. How did I do that?
Better? Yeah, okay. Well, it's an honor to do this, and I want to dedicate this to my big brother who died 33 years ago, whose yahrzeit is in 2 weeks, my brother Les. So this is my story. In early March 1981, my boyfriend John and I moved into the coolest neighborhood in the city, the East Village. We were both in our 20s and everything seemed perfect. We had been a couple for 4 years living on Long Island with our families. Moving to New York City seemed beshert for us, since I was from the projects in the Bronx and John was from Queens. It had only been 12 years since the Stonewall Uprising, when others, unknown to us, fought for our rights. It was a very exciting time to be young and gay and with a partner. It was our big adventure to reclaim the Big Apple as our own. But it was not meant to be. 2 months after living in New York, I received a phone call from my little brother David, telling me that our big brother Les had become an IV drug user. Les had always been very daring and prone to doing stupid stuff, but IV drugs didn't make sense. 2 months later, John and I and a few other gay friends were at Jones Beach, of course the gay section, when John showed me a small article in the New York Times about 41 young gay guys in San Francisco who died of mysterious causes. I brushed it off, saying, why should we in New York be concerned about a few gay guys in California? I later ate my words. My big brother using IV drugs and the little article in the New York Times were just the beginning for me. That article was to be the harbinger of an ongoing disaster for me, my family, and my community. What began as a trickle soon turned into a tsunami. There was a movie in the early 1980s called You Can't Stop the Music, stupid movie, starring the Village People and Steve Guttenberg about the disco craze. One of the lines was, you can't stop the music, nobody can stop the music. But soon enough, the music was stopped by an invisible, deadly virus. Shortly after that movie was released, young gay men who loved disco began to die. Okay. In 1986, I enrolled in a medical study that had nothing to do with AIDS. The people running the study contacted me to tell me there was something wrong with my platelets. You had to give a blood donation. I instinctively knew this was not going to be it was going to be a very big deal. I was too scared to actually take the HIV test, so I asked the doctor at the Community Health Project, the forerunner to Callan Lord, to test just my T cells. When I returned to the doctor, he said something like, "With you being gay and having such a low T cell count, you have contracted AIDS, you have contracted HIV, the virus that causes AIDS." It's funny how the human brain works. When he first told me the bad news, I temporarily went deaf. Really, I didn't hear a word he said. When he repeated it, I understood and I was scared. I knew I had to keep this secret, even from John. I was ashamed of myself for allowing this to happen. No one must know. I thought maybe I can hold out until the cure, which is probably right around the corner. I cried all the way home, but I would never shed another tear along my journey with AIDS. But I decided I didn't want to die of denial, so I immediately started taking all the drugs to fight AIDS. AZT, DDI, DDC, many more. It was a heartbreaking time for the gay community. Some of us were infected, but all of us were affected. So many young gay guys, some of whom I knew and many I would never have the pleasure to know, were just disappearing. Death was stalking the gay community, but I remained silent out of fear for my own family, friends, community, and John. But I am proud to say that I was at the very first ACT UP demonstration on Wall Street on March 24th, 1987, but I still feel guilty for not allowing myself to get arrested. That would have been a good thing. Then everything changed when my big brother tested positive for AIDS in the summer of 1987. All those years I was watching my friends get AIDS and die, and I was infected, and now my big brother, good-looking and athletic, had it. For me, AIDS seemed to be everywhere. On New Year's Eve, 1988, my brother came down with pneumocystis carinii pneumonia, which is an opportunistic infection. At that point, I told my family that Les had crossed over to full-blown AIDS. In those days, an AIDS diagnosis meant you would be dead within a year and a half. Almost every weekend, my little brother and I visited our family. I told my brother to hang on. I would say things like, "You don't want to be the last. You want to be the one who dies the day before the cure comes." Boy, was I off. It's been 40 years, and although there are great life-saving drugs, I take them, there's still no cure. Every week we visited my brother, and every week he deteriorated. In August, he had a series of mini strokes, leaving him unable to smile, speak, or even swallow. I had seen my friends die from AIDS, but not so upfront and personal as with my brother. I saw him wasting away at the age of 38, and I remembered how many of my gay friends had done the same. But it was never far from my thoughts that I, too, might go through it. It really was a very difficult time for me, grieving for my friends, watching my brother die, scared of my own health. When my brother died, 16 days before the first World AIDS Day on December 17, 1988, his yard site's in 2 weeks, he looked like a very old man, withered, silent. From the day he died until this very day, I've never gotten over his untimely death. But my next thought was, when would I be put to the test? Which continues. In the spring of 1994, I seemed to be falling asleep, lethargic, and unable to stand up even. My mother, my friends, and John begged me to go to the hospital, but I was sure it was nothing. On the afternoon of May 11th, 1994, I collapsed in my apartment from anemia. I instinctively put my right arm in front of me to protect myself. That May 11th, John left work early that day, May 12th, to find me unconscious and in a coma. When he saw I was still breathing, he got me to nearby Cabrini Hospital. They put me on life support with only a 25% chance of living through the first night. My best friend, John Sharkey, saved my life. When I came to, the first thing I did was ask to speak to John. The nurse called him up. I spoke to him. He told me what had happened. But because I laid on my right arm for so long, I developed sepsis, which is a deadly bacterial blood infection. This was a perfect storm. To fight AIDS and sepsis at the same time seemed almost impossible. The doctors tried to save my life and my arm. Then I also lost the ability to walk, and I was developing kidney and liver failure. After 8 weeks, it was clear that my right arm could not be saved. The doctors gave me a choice: either have your right arm amputated, and you might live another 6 months, that might never walk again, or if you choose not to get amputated, you'll die soon. I have no idea why I hesitated, but I did. My decision to do the right thing and amputate was based on the old Jewish concept to choose life, any life, a disabled life, a short life, but life. I thought it might be a challenge becoming left-handed, but I adapted immediately. The first thing my left hand did was to sign the consent to amputate the right. Sometimes I would pray to God to save me. During 10 weeks in the hospital, I was overwhelmed by the number of people visiting. I said to myself many times, I will not give up, I will not give in. One lucky thing was that it was Stonewall 25 and Gay Games in New York, so I had many friends from all over the country visiting me. And one more page. But one visitor definitely stands out, and that was Rabbi Kleinbaum. I'll never forget her simple but powerful words. She said, "Shep, you are not your lost arm." I'm more than that. And as it turns out, I believe I am the long-time survivor of AIDS at CBST. I've been infected for 37 years. I believe I'm the only AIDS patient Rabbi Kleinbaum visited and held hands with and prayed with who is actually still alive. When I left the hospital, I had only 7 T cells and I weighed 96 pounds, not even a 98-pound weakling, less. I missed so many fabulous events during the summer in New York of 1994, like the Gay Games, the International Gay Square Dance Convention in Washington, D.C., and of course, Stonewall 25. I promised myself then and there that I would never miss another Gay Games, and I haven't. In fact, I won a gold medal in 2002 in Sydney. I would never miss another Square Dance Convention, and I haven't. Even though I missed Stonewall 25, I promised myself not only would I be there for Stonewall 50, but I would help to make it happen, and I did. 6 months after I got out of the hospital, which was the amount of time my doctors said I had to live, turned out to be my 43rd birthday. So amazingly, I didn't die. I now felt like I had a real chance to live out my life. Now every birthday I celebrate, I think about it as the day I cheated death and proved my doctors wrong. Through my whole ordeal, I never asked why me? Why not me? Good things happen to bad people all the time. But now, after all I went through, I do ask God, why me? Why was I spared? I do not have survivor's guilt. I do have survivor's responsibility. I feel responsible to tell my story and theirs. I try to honor them and remember the ones I knew. Maybe because so many of my friends died from AIDS, and I nearly died from it, I now live a life with more purpose and vigor and intentionality. I try to give back to the community that has supported me every step of the way as I was challenged by AIDS and fighting for my life. I try to give back by being active with the Gay Games, Gays Against Guns, the World Congress of GLBT Jews, Sundance Outdoor Club, and of course this synagogue, Congregation Beit Simchat Torah. That goes on. So what did I learn? I thought about it and came up with a mnemonic, which got me through my experience with AIDS. It's FGH. F is for faith. I never gave up my faith in my doctors or in my God, in the universe or in my own will to live. G is for gratitude. No matter how bad things got, I always felt gratitude. There was a time in the hospital when I lost use of 3 of my 4 limbs. So even though I lost my arm, I was so grateful to get back the use of my legs. For me, the glass is not half empty or half full. For me, it is overflowing. And H is for humor. All through my ordeal, I was always making jokes about my disability and my situation, sometimes to make myself feel better and sometimes to put my friends at ease. I needed a little humor to get through the pain and the challenge. Of course, I learned to listen to my mother, my friends, and especially to John. I learned it the hard way. I learned that the gay community, especially including CBST and ACT UP and others, really did save my life. I learned life is fragile and precarious and precious. Grab as much as you can, as I do, and always have gratitude. No matter how bad things get, there's always something to feel gratitude for. I just have to have a shout out for 6 of my friends kind of came together, with John as being the head of it. They were like a posse, and they interacted with the doctors, and they looked after me. And that's John Sharkey, Jackie Slivko, Martin Friedman, Bill Bolesky, who's recently died, and David Krause, and Mark Black over here. I'm so proud to be able to stand here after all I've been through and say that I beat AIDS. AIDS did not beat me. I won, AIDS lost. I'm a survivor. Well, that's my story. And act up, fight back, fight AIDS, and fight to live, as I did. That's it. I didn't cry too much.
Thank you so much, Shep. I am incredibly proud of you, and I know that so many people are in this community. And I know how hard this was, and you're right, you didn't cry. And it's not your bar mitzvah, but right, it's not the end of your teaching us. It's always the beginning. And we have a special treat to follow on this.
Thank you, Shep. I echo what the rabbi just said, and for the following song is found in our Siddur on page 202. It likely is the only Siddur on the planet with the words of Mark's All-Male Thanksgiving in it by CBST member Bill Finn. This comes from his song cycle Elegies that premiered in 2003. It's a snapshot of New York life. Life of a gay man, of a gay Jewish man in New York City, and we hear celebration of life. We don't hear, sad dirge. We hear this beautiful celebration of life that we will share together as we mark Thanksgiving and also this World AIDS Day Shabbat. Every Thanksgiving, Mark made his all-male Thanksgiving dinner, where men cooked the turkey and men made the cranberry sauce without nuts, 'cause men don't like nuts. But the stuffing was manly, the finger bowls ditto, and ditto the pureed sweet yams. Very manly when Mark made his all-male Thanksgiving. Bill Sherwood was present. He wrote and directed Parting Glances, a movie for which Mark raised the money, in which Arthur invested, and the Thanksgiving crew put money into. Steve Buscemi was featured, his first time on screen, and you knew you were watching a star. God, he was great, but he wasn't at Mark's all-male Thanksgiving. Remembering this is sort of like Grandpa remembering his shtetl. It seemed to take place so long ago. In the past, the memories last, but fade. What a community we made. Diplomats, poets, opera guys, guys dressed in leather breeches. Some paunchy, some starting to bald, some were awful, and some were okay in an unthreatening way. Mark the lawyer wore flannel, he comes from Wisconsin. The handsomest guy wore a tie. That was Arthur, sweetly decent, funny, and living. I met Arthur when Mark made his all-male Thanksgiving. And the excellent movie that Bill Sherwood filmed was his first and his last, since alas the boy passed. Arthur still, when he smiles, he makes my heart flutter. We think it's been 22 years. I wrote this song to not forget Mark's all-male Thanksgiving. It's been so long since Mark made his all-male Thanksgiving. Where we gave thanks.
We truly do have the best liturgy in this community. Thank you all for being, this really feels like a journey through memory, through this community, and through all of these ritual moments that we preserve in a very, very unique way. I also want to note that if you did not yet look at the e-news for the coming week, it went out on Friday morning. On December 1st, there are multiple commemorations of World AIDS Day in New York City, and throughout the day in different locations, and I very, very much encourage you to pick one or more and be with this history and with this present. So please rise if you are able. We are going to start to conclude with Aleinu on 140.
Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, lateit gidula leotzer bereshit, shebara otanu betzalmo, venafach banu et nishmat chayenu, שהעמיק אותנו בלימוד תורתו, וקידשנו במצוותיה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב עיקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. We turn to page 150 for the Mourner's Kaddish as we remember those we've lost in recent days or in years past. We remember this week, in this coming week, the yortzites of CBS team members Stanley Jacobs, Michael Sabin, Kenneth Schechner, Valerie Troyansky, and CBST family and friends Francine Friedman, Israel Gaffney, Freda Goldstein, Karen Gramillion, Rose Heldeman, Sylvia Carpel, Ira Lefkowitz, Kenneth Levy, Sam Mintz-Strauss, Sam Polikoff, Philip Passon, Miriam Post, Leah Rosen, Mark Simmons, Dora Spiegel, and Ruth Strickler. We offer our condolences today to the family and friends of Stephen Sondheim, and to all of us who have been touched by his music, who died today at the age of 91. This is a memory today. We lost Stephen Sondheim. This is a memory that will be such a blessing, that this is a life that has shaped many of our lives and the way that we sing about our lives. And I'm sure we will have more to say about this in the coming days and weeks. We offer our condolences to the families, friends, and communities of all those who are dying each day from the COVID-19 pandemic. As of yesterday, the total number of deaths are 34,789 of our neighbors in New York City, 57,879 in New York State, 798,245 across the United States, and 5,200,913 worldwide. May their memories be for a blessing, and may we do better. If you are in mourning, if you are observing a yahrzeit, please rise and join me in saying the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayeichon uvyameichon uv'chayei dechal Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Olamei Amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shemei Dekudashah Brechu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata Ta'amiran bi'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, Amen. May their memories all continue to bless us. I am delighted to invite up CBST President Sabrina Farber for some announcements. And I am delighted to be able to switch out the microphone once again. Hi, Rabbi Tech person. And this time I'm not going to accidentally turn it off, right? Oh, no, we're good. Okay.
I love all this COVID drama. One day we'll stop, I promise. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to CBST. We're thrilled to welcome all of you from near and far, and many with the magic of technology. Thank you so much to Baal Tefillah cantorial intern Sam Rosen for sharing your beautiful voice and unlimited, it seems, musical talents. We all knew that Sam played the guitar, and we were introduced to him playing the oud. And now tonight, for some of us, this was the first time we actually heard and saw him play piano as well. And I also want to say, by the way, he is remarkably calm, cool, and collected for someone who is having his senior recital. More about that later, in just a few days' time. So thank you for making time to be on the Bima with us. I am especially thankful that Rabbi Marisa James was here tonight for service leadership. I so adore it when you lead services, and I think it's maybe especially because it happens when I'm never expecting it, and so it's just like a very last-minute wonderful gift.
Same.
I was so moved, Shep, by your really deeply felt words tonight. I echo what Rabbi James said. You made yourself so incredibly vulnerable to this community. Many of us were part of the AIDS crisis. Many of us lived through it and lost friends. Most of us, however, didn't have, obviously, the kind of deep, entrenched experience that you did. And so we are grateful for your memories, and we're grateful for you sharing them with us. Please join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. for Shabbat morning services with cantorial intern Sam Rosen and Kuperberg Ritmaster rabbinical intern Dave Yadid. And at 7 p.m. we'll have Havdalah, which will be led by Kuperberg Ritmaster rabbinical intern Yael Werber. So I don't have that much to say today, but I do have a page and a half, so just bear with me. I know we've just had Thanksgiving and everyone's stuffed full of turkey and tryptophan. However, at my house we had brisket. Hopefully you're very grateful for lots of things in your life. However, because of the calendar hat trick that happens every couple of years, guess what, everybody? Hanukkah starts on Sunday. That's this Sunday. That's 2 days from now, okay? Plenty of time to eat up all your Thanksgiving leftovers and buy your potatoes, make your latkes, make your sufganiyot. December, Sunday night, November 28th. We will again this year be hosting a Zoom menorah lighting ceremony at CBST, and each night this year, because we're so organized, each night will be sponsored and led by a different group within the Kahal. So this is very exciting. I didn't even know that the office was doing this, but they put it all together, and I'm totally, totally thrilled to announce this. I'm not going to tell you about it because guess what? There's an entire page on the website, cbst.org/Hanukkah. You want to know who's on what night? Figure it out on that website page. But more importantly, people, I will give you one piece of advice. It's a different time every night. Depends on the group that's doing it. So don't think you have to be home at 6 o'clock every night. Some nights it's 6:15, some nights it's 5:45. Trust me, you have to go online, read who's going to do it. I will give you one other tip, which is Wednesday night, clear your calendars, because if you have been missing the CBST Community Chorus as much as I have, Wednesday night is the night to tune in for Shabbat, for menorah lighting, because the Community Chorus will be hosting that menorah lighting. So please, at least make time on Wednesday, if not for the entire 8 days. All right. Join us Monday, November 29th at 5:30 in Times Square for the Shine a Light on Anti-Semitism. This is an event sponsored by many key New York Jewish organizations. There will be musical performances, statements of support from elected officials, and of course a big menorah lighting. If you're interested, CBST Vice President Harold Levine will be there with the CBST banner. It'll be a little dark to see that, but I'm sure you'll figure out where Harold is. Tuesday, November 30th is Giving Tuesday, and it just so happens that Gina Schmeling is here in the sanctuary today. So as our Director of Development, I am telling her and that I am announcing to all of you, Giving Tuesday is a very, very important day on the calendar. As those of you who know, it's time to turn around and give to your favorite nonprofit. We certainly hope that CBST will be on your list of nonprofits to give to. And in advance, I would like to express my thanks to all of you. And as I referred to earlier, Wednesday, December 1 at 10:30 a.m. is Sam's senior recital. It's called Ma'adene Melech, and it's the capstone project of his senior year in which he builds on his thesis about Jewish food and music. And lucky for us, the recital will be live streamed on Zoom, and details are in the e-newsletter and on the website, so you can, wherever you are, even if you're at work, you can log into the Zoom and you can hear what promises to be an extraordinary performance. It will also be available for viewing later. And don't forget, Monday, December 13th at 7 p.m., it's time to join Seth Rudetsky for a magical evening Broadway at CBST. We have just found out that some of the folks who will be joining him are Andrea Burns from In the Heights, Obie winner Darius DeHaas, and Tony winner Santino Fontana for Tootsie. Tickets are on sale now, as you know, and in-person tickets are limited, so don't delay. Thank you for helping us build community as we pursue Tikkun Olam. Shabbat Shalom.
I'm not sure why I took the microphone with me. And I just want to add an announcement that I apparently did not send in the right directions, that on Thursday night is also our monthly EMET team meeting for the trans and non-binary and gender expansive team at CBST. Rafaela Anshel is our chair of that team, and Ariel Zitny, or Tovlev. I love when people get married and change their names. Wonderful rabbinical student Ariel Tovlev is doing a lot of teaching with that group. It's wonderful. So if you are trans or non-binary or gender expansive, non-conforming, or questioning or figuring that out, or if you have friends who are, you and they are invited. It's a wonderful, wonderful group. And all of this is very exciting about the concert. I'm really looking forward to the concert. This is the closest I'm ever getting to Broadway, like right here. So, I always have this moment where I'm like, where are we? We are at the Kiddush and the live streams, which I just put down here. See, the problem is because there's not Oreos downstairs, I forget the announcements, right? Like, I need to, at this point in the service, be hungry enough that there are Oreos in my mind to remind me of this part. We are always so grateful for people who sponsor the service, the program, the live stream, the Zoom, God willing, one day, the Oreos. And so tonight's Shabbat program is sponsored by Greg Passon and Andy Schmidt in memory of Greg's father, Philip, on his 7th yahrzeit. May his memory be a blessing to you. Tonight's live stream and Zoom are sponsored by Hannah Gaffney and Barbara Dolgen in loving memory of Hannah's father, Israel Gaffney, Zichrona Livracha, on his 19th yahrzeit. May his memory bless you. By Linda Solomon and Bonnie Siegel. Our post-Thanksgiving wish is a refuah shlema to Larry Kay and Candace Stacy Harris, and hoping all of us continue to have much for which to be grateful. Amen. And by Kenneth and Ira, remembering Kenneth's mother, Sylvia, Zichrona Livracha, on her 14th yahrzeit. The night before she died, as we lit the menorah, she miraculously woke and mouthed the blessings with us. That is a blessing. And services are supported by Judith Hollander in memory of Stephen Hollander, Zichrono Livracha, father and friend. You never could have imagined our current situation. Oh, yeah, none of them could, but like that's a blessing too. By Harry Lutrin on the upcoming 80th anniversary in memory of the victims of the Rumbula Forest massacres of November 30th, 1941. As I said earlier, different communities have our own special observances. This is one that I need to learn about. And by Bonnie Marty in memory of Francis Antonicelli, Zichrono Livracha, I hope I said that right, father, grandfather, and husband, you are missed. May his memory be a blessing. We will be concluding with Adon Olam on page 154. And I am also in awe of Sam's multi-instrumentalness. One of my loves of being in the CBST choir is that I have sung in at least 3 different vocal sections over my time at CBST, but that's more impressive. I'm deeply grateful to be sharing a bima tonight. page 154.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא שבת שלום 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 ומבורך.
Our Kiddush is on page 156. Oh, I got the big cup. See, there are some things about going to rabbinical school. It's like, right, I didn't get the big cup in my family ever, and now I sometimes do, and it's still confusing to me. It's like, wow, like, look at that. Do I get to be like the Queen of England now? Please rise for Kiddush. I'm a little verklempt.
יום השישי ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות סברי חבריי וחברותיי לחיים ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במיתותיו ורצה בנו ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחיל לנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת אמן.
And in CBST tradition, I'm going to ask you all to reach out one hand. And that's right. Look, we're all connected. And for you at home, you can actually touch the screen. Like, that's hygienic. It's great. So reach out and touch us. We are all so connected.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz
Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Mevorach. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.